On February 28th, Israel and the USA attacked Iran, which started a war that still continues. Although after 40 days of daily attacks, the countries announced ceasefire, it only means that attacks can start again any minute. I spoke about my personal experience of living in Tehran during the attacks in my previous video, so if you haven't watched it, you can check it out. With the start of the attacks, the Iranian government shut down the access to the international internet in the whole country. It was not the first time though. The government shut down the internet also in 2019, 2022, 2025 during the 12-day war, and also in January 2026. All those blackouts were much shorter, from a few days to a couple of weeks. But the one that we had in spring was the longest, and it lasted 88 days. And in this video, I want to share my personal experience of living without the internet for a period of time, and share the things with you that helped me stay grounded and stay sane in these kind of circumstances. For almost 3 months, most Iranians were cut off from the international internet and had access only to Iranian websites and apps. After 2 or 3 weeks, the authorities opened access to Google Search and Gmail, but none of other Google services were available. Practically, the only way ordinary people who could access international websites and apps was using a VPN. But they had to pay a ridiculously huge amount of money to have that access. And it didn't mean that if you bought a VPN, you could have a stable access to the internet. No, far from that. Some people would pay a lot of money, but the internet just wouldn't connect, or sometimes it would connect only for a few days and then it won't work anymore. The access that we had was still very, very unstable, and you can't rely on it. You can't schedule anything because tomorrow it may not connect at all. During the time, you had to buy traffic. Depending on the amount of gigabytes that you buy, the price will just rise up. You could only use it for like very basic needs, like for contacting your family, relatives, without using any social media, any video or image-based websites or platforms, because it uses a lot of traffic. That's why you need to constantly keep in mind that you need to be careful about spending the traffic that you're using, and you had to turn off, for example, auto download of pictures or videos on Telegram, on WhatsApp. So with the start of the internet blackout, I instantly lost the most important parts of my life. I teach Persian online, and most of my students are outside Iran. So I lost my job and I lost all kind of income in one day. My parents and family and friends live outside Iran, and that's why I couldn't keep in touch with them, and I couldn't even let them know that I'm doing okay. When you are connected to the internet 24/7, you don't actually realize how dependent you are on the internet, and how the internet connection is needed for all the tiny things on your phone or laptop. Let me give you a very simple example. On my phone, I have this weather widget that shows the temperature. Without the international internet, it wouldn't update, and I had to go to Iranian websites to check the weather and the temperature, and of course they are not as detailed and not as accurate as the international ones. We use Google Search a lot, and without access to Google Search, I had to use Iranian search engines, and believe me, they are very basic, they're very, very limited. They browse only Iranian websites that work on the national internet. They would show you, for example, the same website, but different pages of this same website. Finally, there are things like Google Maps, which is very popular inside Iran as well. And during that time, we could only use Iranian map apps, which although give better directions, but have very limited information about different places, very just maybe a couple of pictures, if there are any at all, almost no reviews and no information about those places. Another interesting thing is that most Persian language podcasts, even though they are produced inside Iran, they are hosted on international platforms so that they would be available for international podcast apps. That is why if you use an Iranian app for podcasts, you can't listen to those Persian language podcasts because they are hosted on foreign servers. I remember one Iranian app would show a long list of podcasts, but as soon as you start playing them, they would just show an error that this podcast is not available due to the internet blackout. During the 12-day war last June, I downloaded the coloring app on my phone, and I have been using it ever since. It's actually very calming and relaxing, and much better than scrolling your Instagram feed, for example. I had downloaded like maybe 10 pictures to color, and that was all I had, because very soon I realized that new pictures just wouldn't load, and I knew that these 10 pictures are everything that I have for an uncertain amount of time. It was pretty depressing because you can't even use a basic game on your phone because of the internet connection. Actually, you can divide this internet blackout in two parts. The first part was the first 40 days during the attacks. The limitations were stricter, and the internet connection was absolutely unstable, even with the VPN. And like those days, they remind me like some kind of lockdown that we had during the pandemic. And I managed to buy a VPN only after 30 days. So like the first month, it basically was no internet. After the ceasefire, VPN started to give you a more stable internet connection, and finally I could at least think about getting my classes back, and also getting back here on YouTube. Speaking about those first days of the internet blackout, I have to admit that I was relieved somehow, because during the week before the war started, there was a lot of tension, and on social media there were constantly videos showing up about how to behave in different emergency situations, like when there is no electricity or no water, and they would advise on making some water supplies, drinking water supplies, and also they would like teach you, for example, how to make a fire, to cook food using a piece of soap, so things like that. And that made people anxious a lot. When the war finally started, I felt relieved that okay, it has finally started, and like the sooner we start, the sooner we end it all. That was a good thing about it. And of course, like when you have no internet, when you don't have no access to the news, when you have no access to social media, no doom scrolling, of course you will feel calmer, sleep better, and like start living in the moment. But it lasted only for a few days, and very soon the anxiety started to kick out. It was really difficult to predict how long it may take, and for how long we would have to live with no jobs, no income, and no communication, and no internet. Another thing that actually surprised me was that I started to miss speaking Russian, using Russian, like for reading even, or for watching something in Russian. Most of the connections that I have inside Iran, they are in Persian, so most of my life during that time was in Persian, and I really started missing speaking Russian. At first, I thought that it's a great opportunity to do something that I postponed for a long time, or something I always wanted to do but never had time for. To learn something new, to, I don't know, do something meaningful. But in that situation, when you are constantly under stress, you can't actually focus very well. And when you have this huge uncertainty in your life, and you don't know how long it will take, and what will happen in the country during the war and after the war. You can't predict anything. In this kind of situation, you can't focus on and do anything really meaningful. At first I thought, okay, maybe I should read that bunch of books on teaching strategies that I always wanted to and that I had on my Kindle. But who knows if I can continue teaching after the war. Because we don't know what will happen if the internet is back or not. So what's the point of me reading those books right now when I have no idea what is going to happen? Or like I could continue making videos, but I thought that like what's the point of that? Because I don't know if I ever find access to YouTube again, if I manage to continue making videos for my YouTube channel. So what's the point of doing it right now? Or what's the point of making content ahead when I have no idea when the internet will be connected and what I would want to share when it happens. Because of that, like the main goal was just to pass the time. Just forget about being productive. Do whatever you can to keep your thoughts off the news and just continue living. The main thing that helped me during the time was that I stuck to my routine. It means that I woke up and went to sleep at the same time. I had my meals at the same time. I didn't skip any meals. I went on daily walks, did my workouts. I even created some new routines. For example, every night I spent 1 hour before sleep, like before even going to read before sleep. I spent 1 hour doing some scrapbooking or coloring, listening to an audiobook, things like that to calm me down before actually going to bed. Another thing that helped a lot was trying to focus on what I was doing at that moment. For example, when I was cooking, I was only cooking and not listening to any podcasts or audiobooks, and I would just focus only the task that I was busy with. Or when I went on walks, I wouldn't even bring my phone. I would try to pay attention to what's around me and focus on the walk itself. And for the rest of the time, I just tried to keep myself busy. So I cooked, I baked quite a lot, I spent some time choosing some photos to print them out, because we have a photo album, but it's almost empty. And I always wanted to print some photos from our previous years and from some of our trips. So my husband and I spent a few days choosing pictures. Then when we were done and we went to ask for the price, we realized that, like, we calculated that it would cost us a huge sum of money. We chose those photos. I have them now on my laptop, this beautiful selection of the most memorable moments of our lives. But now I just can't print them out because this is too expensive. Another thing that we did, we watched a lot of movies and TV shows. Fortunately, the streaming service that we use became available first week of the war, so at least we had access to some TV shows and movies to watch. During the time, though, I watched mostly very light shows. Like, for example, I watched the latest season of Emily in Paris, and also a season from Only Murders in the Building. And one of the things that I did, I finished watching the last season of Twin Peaks, and also together with my husband we watched Westworld. And we watched only 2 seasons because the second season, it was such a disappointment, and we decided not to continue watching it. Also, I watched a couple of Korean TV shows, which I loved actually, because they are so calming and relaxing and so heartwarming. Like, one of the shows that I watched was about a small town by the sea beside the love story of the main characters. It showed also those neighbors of different ages and in different circumstances. It gave me that sense of community that I lacked, that human connection maybe that I didn't have access to during those first weeks of the war. That's why it was very, very heartwarming for me to watch it, and it felt like those neighbors became my neighbors and became my family too. Of course, I tried to be kind of productive in watching good movies too. So my husband and I watched quite a few of the movies by a very famous Iranian filmmaker and theater director and playwright, Bahram Bezai. Probably the highlight of the movies were not his classics, but his short film made for children, which is called Journey. It is just a half an hour long and shows the journey of two boys looking for the parents of one of the boys. The movie follows them on their journey from the poor neighborhood in Tehran to a modern and wealthy neighborhood. It not only shows the story of these two boys, but it also shows the transition of the whole Iranian society from the traditional society to modernity. I enjoyed every minute of it because of how beautifully it is filmed and how multi-layered it is. If you want to start watching some of the movies by these great Iranian filmmaker, I would suggest maybe start with this one because it's a short one and is definitely a masterpiece. My husband and I play table tennis, but we usually play very rarely, maybe a few times during the year. There are tables almost in every park in Tehran, which you can use for table tennis, but the weather allows you to play outside mostly only during spring and autumn. And that's why, because we are busy going out during those times or traveling, that is why normally we play table tennis just a couple of times each season. This time we had more opportunity to play. It was actually an opportunity to not only have some physical activity and to stay active, but also go to other neighborhoods, to other parks, and maybe somehow just leave that safe space of our own neighborhood and just have an excuse to go somewhere else. My favorite thing was to go to a park, to some other park in a different neighborhood, play table tennis, and then after that go to a cafe somewhere nearby, grant ourselves with a sweet treat. It was also a great way to pass the time because after such an activity you realize that the half of the day is gone and you've managed to find something to pass the time and to entertain yourself. So going to a cafe was practically the only treat I gave myself. It was also an opportunity to go out, to maybe even go to a different neighborhood to get some sweets or to go to a cafe and also spend some time around people, not necessarily communicate, but at least be around people, or sometimes just have a moment with myself. During this time, we managed to revisit some of our favorite places, like for example that ice cream place called Gelato House. My favorite thing there is Napoleon ice cream, which is the combination with vanilla ice cream with puff pastry and caramel sauce. Just amazing. We also discovered a few new places. One of the highlights was Roland Bakery, which offers various cinnamon buns with different flavors. That was a great experience too. I have already mentioned that we went on daily walks. Sometimes we would go on longer walks, like sometimes we would just grab thermos with tea and something sweet and head to a park where we would normally not go because it's too far walking from our house. I must say that being in nature is one of the best things that you can do during stressful times like that. Once we went on a picnic for breakfast and it was really fun. After the ceasefire, we even went to a waterfall that we discovered during the pandemic, which is quite close to Tehran. Being in nature really helped a lot. But the most efficient way to keep my mind off the war and the whole situation and to keep me busy was reading, of course. I read so much that I think in the first few months of the year I managed to achieve my reading goal on Goodreads. And the thing that actually kept me reading was my book club, Chapters of Iran. This is an online book club where we discuss books that are somehow related to Iran. Reading them and discussing them allows us to learn more about Iran, about the country, about the history and the culture of the country, share maybe our own experiences related to these topics. In the past months, we read mostly books written by Iranian authors outside Iran, so they were written in English. But the latest book that we read and which kept me busy during the wartime was actually an original Iranian novel that was translated into English. And the book that I am talking about is My Uncle Napoleon, written by Iraj Pezeshkzad. It is actually a satirical novel, which honestly kept my spirits high as much as it was possible at that moment. The novel tells the story of a large Iranian family living in Tehran in 1940s. The main plot line that connects all the stories in the novel is the conflict between Uncle Napoleon, who is an aristocrat and the head of the family, and his sister's husband, who is an ordinary pharmacist. And all the family members are trying to reconcile these seemingly irreconcilable worlds. Although the truth is finally achieved, the conflict continues. What made reading this book even more special during the time was how relevant it still is. It covers different conflicts and how they are solved. There are a lot of peace talks. There are a lot of things regarding compromising or more often not compromising. I really enjoyed it, and I honestly realized quite a few things about Iranians, how flexible they can be, or rather cannot be. Although this is a satirical novel and, well, has quite a few vulgar jokes and quite like cheap jokes, it is surprisingly multi-layered, and it is quite deep, and it can be considered as the glimpse on the society of the time. And because the society doesn't change that quickly, you can still recognize the same attitudes and the same behavior in modern Iranian society. When I pick up a book, especially for a book club, I try to go an extra mile for it, to do some research about the book and the topics covered in the book, and maybe some books related to this topic, or gather some other sources that would help to understand the book better. And that is why I read 2 more nonfiction books related to the topics covered in the novel. One of them was Conspiracy Theories in Iran. It's a collection of historical articles on this topic. The main character, Uncle Napoleon, is persuaded that the English want to get rid of him. They are using different conspiracies, trying to get close to him. So he's obsessed with this idea. This non-fiction collection of articles, it just proved how deeply conspiracy theories are rooted in Iranian culture and Iranian minds. And actually, we heard quite a lot of conspiracy theories during the war as well. So this topic remains relevant even nowadays. And the other book was Iran, the Short-Term Society, by an Iranian historian, Homa Katuzian, which was also a great read, an interesting theory regarding not only the history of Iran, but also the present time situation. Helps get a deeper understanding of how Iranian society and the relation between the society, the people, and the those in power work. The first season of Chapters of Iran book club is now over. I decided to give it some rest because of this unstable internet situation and political situation, just to see where it goes. And hopefully later I'm planning to continue with it and start a new season. Stay tuned for the updates. I will post updates for the book club here on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe if you're interested. Also, you can email me. My email is in the description, and I will add you to the newsletter list for the book club, and you will be the first to get all the updates regarding Chapters of Iran book club. I will be delighted to see you there and to discuss Iran with you. I once read that one of the efficient techniques that help you cope with stress is learning a new skill. And during the blackout after the protests in January 2026, I decided to give it a try and learn something new. So I decided to try to revive my German skills, because I studied German at high school and also at university. After moving to Iran, I completely forgot like most of it. I was unable to make even a basic conversation in German. So I decided to start from the basics and got some textbooks. And during like these maybe 3-4 months, I really made some progress. And it's great that I already learned it once, so it's not all that new to me. It I think less stressful to work on something that you are familiar with at least a little bit. So now that the internet blackout is finally over, we have once again an opportunity to create, to plan, to be active. To be honest, I am still preparing myself for the worst and for another blackout. But for now, let's just enjoy the opportunity that we have right now and use it and enjoy it for the time being. Hope to see you in another video. Stay safe and Khodafez.